So obviously this is not like going to be the most official video because I'm sitting on my bed and my computer's propped up on pillows and whatever. And Albert's singing in the background. I don't know if you could hear him. So, anyway, our wedding, I think we started to plan it and we got engaged in like January maybe. And we started to plan the wedding not till like May. And we got married in October. No, it might have been June that we started planning. Anyway, we planned a wedding in like 2.5 months. Because we were kind of scared to plan too much ahead of time because Josiah still was working PRN. So he didn't have a full-time job, and I will be starting nursing school, and he was nervous about finances, and it was one of those things for him where I had to trust that it would all work out and not push the topic with him too much. We knew that we didn't want a fancy wedding. Really, we would have just eloped if it wasn't, or gone to the courthouse if it wasn't for his family really wanting some kind of wedding, because he was the first grandchild to get married on both sides and so on and so forth. But ironically, it was my family paying for it. And I mean, we couldn't pay for it. We didn't have any money. So there was that whole issue. So it was 5 hours north from where they lived, because that's where my family was. So there was the whole issue with, they didn't know where they were going, and it was a long drive for them. And the wedding venue was this little church that was like in the middle of a cornfield. If I can figure out how to put a picture of our venue into this video, I will, because it was absolutely beautiful. The venue itself made it worth it, I think, just because, I don't know, both our hearts belong out in the country in the middle of nowhere, and that's where we feel most at peace. So it just so worked out that that's where we were going to get married, because we were going to get married on my grandparents' farm. And initially they had said yes, but then they said, oh, it's October, it's going to be too cold. And like my grandma just started making up a bunch of excuses, because basically she didn't feel like she could physically help with the wedding, even though she knew that she wasn't expected to do anything. My grandma is not somebody who can just like not help. So basically they said yes, and then they said no, we couldn't have it on their farm at the cabin. And then my cousin and his stinking wife got married there a couple months later, which really kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but it wasn't. Theirs was a different story. Unplanned pregnancy, and yeah, I'm not going to get too bent out of shape over it. It stings, but I love my grandparents, and I can understand why they said no. I feel like I'm not really saying anything funny about the wedding, just like awkward feelings. Really, the wedding planning got started after I picked out my dress, which was crazy, and I spent too much on it. I didn't spend that much on it, but I spent too much on it because I felt pressure to make a decision, and it is so awkward going dress shopping with my mom and like a bunch of other people. It was my mom, my aunt, the lady that pretty much raised me, or she was my babysitter growing up, and her daughter, who was engaged at the time. It was just awkward. And I was just, I was in a better place, a healthier place weight-wise, but I like really, really hated what I looked like. So everything I felt made me look fat, and I just didn't have any sort of support for that. Because my best friend, who was going to be my maid of honor, she was all the way in Indiana, and I wasn't going to have her drive all the way just to go dress shopping with me, because it was a long drive. There was an awkward feeling that I spent too much on the dress, even though my mom was okay with it. Then the awkward feeling that I had the dress before we had set a date, and then we had to set a date, and then that was weird, trying to figure out where we were going to have it, especially because my dad you know, it was going to be on my mom's turf, basically, because that's where all her family is at. And so then my dad had to drive up there, and his side of the family had to drive up there, and he wanted to invite all these people. And my parents don't communicate well at all. And my dad, like, with him, I just learned to go with the flow, expect the unexpected. You gotta let him do what he wants to do. So he, like, had all these people that he wanted to invite, and then he was gonna have a reception at his house afterward, which, now that I think about it, never came into fruition. Thank God, because that would have been more awkwardness. Oh my goodness. So, we had the venue. I was in nursing school when we were planning all of this. I had just started the accelerated, sorry, Albert keeps singing. I had just started the accelerated BSN program, and it was like October, so 2 months into the program. I mean, we got married, and then I went back that Monday and took a patho test. It sucked. I passed, but it sucked. So I'm trying to plan this all pretty much while in nursing school, which was stressful, an accelerated nursing school, 16 months of nursing hell. And then on top of it, my mom, God love her, she's just like a controlling person. Like she said, and I quote, "I would rather stick needles in my eyeballs than help you plan your wedding." And then she proceeded to plan the whole thing without basically talking to me. Like, I'm not even kidding. Every day I would talk to her, she would have something else planned. So eventually I just, like, pretty much, like, I just said, okay, I want to have a say in my dress, where we get married at, I want real flowers, and I want a pianist, and I want a short ceremony. And, like, that was pretty much, like, I mean, that sounds like a lot, but, like, you think about everything that goes into wedding planning, you know, the food, the schedule, she just, like, she completely took over. And up until that point, too, we moved in together in August, but his parents were really, like, adamant against, like, us, like, not living together, obviously, because we were gonna wait, until we got married to have sex, and, you know, quote, so during those 2.5 months, we had to hide, no, 3, was it 2.5 months? We had to hide that we were living together, which was hard because his family, like, visited at some point in time. Like, I think his aunt actually stayed all night at our apartment, and, oh God, it was really awkward. So, again, we got married in a church. Okay, the cat is, like, hissing at the dog, sorry, and the dog's passive-aggressively staring at the cat. I live in a zoo. And all those backcountry roads, aren't really mapped on GPS, or at least weren't at the time. Like, if you were to follow your GPS, it would lead you, like, to a dead-end road, like, that ended at a cornfield, just because, like, nobody travels those back roads, and if you do, you probably usually know where you were going. So my dad always freaking gets lost. Like, when I lived down south, he would get lost on Interstate 64, which was pretty much like a straight shot once you got out of the city. I don't even know how he got lost because it was a straight shot. Like, he ended up, like, I don't know, at one point we ended up in, like, Cape Girardeau when we were going to go visit my college, which was, like, 45 minutes west, and he's a terrible navigator and a terrible driver. Well, of everybody that was supposed to show up that Friday night for the rehearsal, he was the only one that was on time because apparently, I learned he cannot navigate highways and interstates, but he is really, really good at navigating country roads, probably because he grew up and was practically born in a barn. Josiah's family, however, had that 5-hour drive, and they got totally lost, and his grandparents were pissed because they didn't know where they were going, and I think Grandpa Dale at the time, like, had taken his Lasix. Like, everything always interfered with Grandpa Dale's Lasix, so he, like, I think he only took it once a day, but he always managed to take it at, like, the weirdest time, so I'm sure he probably had to pee during the entire trip. They may have had to pull over so he could pee on the side of the road. I don't really know. So they all got lost, and my dad was the only one on time. So that was pretty funny. He had just gotten flowers at the grocery store, and we're going to arrange them ourselves. My plan was just kind of to do, like, a wildflower, like, just a bunch of different colors in this little fellowship hall room in, you know, jars or mason jars or whatever at the center of the table. And then for my my bouquet and my maid of honor's bouquet, Josiah and his dad's boutonnieres, we were just going to do, like, neutral colored, like, kind of white and green type flowers. Well, then, you know, my aunt comes with flowers from her garden, which is, you know, it's fine, whatever. And, you know, she decides that she's going to do our flower arrangements. Okay, that's fine, whatever you want to do. So then somebody decides to make corsages for, you know, the moms and the grandparents, and they are like the ugliest things I have ever seen in my life. Like the colors, I was like, if you want to make these, that's fine. Just like, please don't make it look like prom. Oh my God. They were so ugly. I wish, again, I'm going to have to look and try to find a picture because they were like the brightest colors ever that just like didn't match, which is really surprising because my aunt and her husband are both extremely artistic people. Like her husband, like he freelance sculpts for a living. Like he makes like these bronze cast sculptures, and like she like curates like the state museum or something. I mean, they're really artistic people, but these were the ugliest things I've ever seen in my life. They had like big, I don't even know where they got big purple bows. I think they had like big bright purple bows on them. So these flower arrangements were terrible. Which at that point I was just kind of like, okay, where's the vodka? Which actually, and we managed to do that weekend entirely sober. That's the best part. Because his family is Southern Baptist, so they don't believe in drinking at all. So we had a completely dry wedding. And even, I wish my maid of honor would, she said that she would bring me like tequila and we could do tequila shots in the bathroom if we needed to. But yeah, it was like completely sober weekend. We survived all of this without alcohol. I could have not done that now. Oh my gosh. My mom decided ahead of time she was going to make this slideshow of us growing up, which was weird because like Josiah hates all the pictures of him as a kid, mostly because he was really chubby. I think he's so cute, but he, like, most of those pictures, he's like, oh my God, take him away. So they had somehow, my mom and his mom had gotten together and shared a bunch of pictures, and they made this slideshow with like this Chris Rice or like really cheesy Jesus song in the back. No, it might have been Casting Crowns. I don't know, which some really cheesy like church song that was just weird because we weren't going to church, but then somehow they wanted us to be like these missionary angels of light, relationship, perfect Christian things. So they put together this awkward slideshow with Jesus songs in the background. Oh, I forgot my underwear the morning of the wedding that I was going to wear under my dress, so I had to go to Walmart and get underwear. My mom said, you know, this was like maybe a week before the wedding, she was like, oh, well, you know, I had told her that I would prefer if they wear like neutral colors because like the actual wedding, you know, we were going to try to have like sort of a neutral theme with the wedding party. And she said, you know, so black, white, and green. And kind of like a neutral earth tone type thing. And she had said, oh, well, I'm going to wear navy because it looks good on me. Okay, Mom. So on the day of the wedding, she wore a navy dress. And before the wedding, on the rehearsal, she wore a black dress, which would have been totally appropriate and matching the day of the wedding. But that's okay. Josiah's mom wore like orange red. I don't even know what his sisters wear at that point. I mean, I didn't really. Okay, whatever makes you happy. At that point, we had realized that day was not about us. Key learning point. Rachel, listen. Your wedding, they will tell you on wedding shows, they will tell you in wedding books that your wedding is about you and it's your day. It is not your day. It is for everybody else. Maybe that was just mine. The point of view that we had. As long as everybody else was happy and we could get through the weekend all in one piece, we were happy, and we just went with the flow and said, whatever, pass me Aunt Julie's rolls, I'll eat like 7 of them and it'll all be okay. Also the morning of, at this point, Josiah's grandma Judy was still alive, and unfortunately she wasn't able to physically come to the wedding, which she was really sad about because it was her first grandchild to get married, and I love Grandma Judy. I miss her. She was awesome. But she was in a nursing home and not able to come. And so his mom had promised that, oh, we'll live Skype you the wedding. Not thinking that when you're in the middle of the country, a lot of times you don't even get internet. Like, a lot of people just had dial-up. They were like, oh, does the church have Wi-Fi? No, the church doesn't have Wi-Fi. I don't even think the neighbors have dial-up internet. or the neighbors have Wi-Fi, or, I mean, it. So we were supposed to Skype Grandma Judy without an internet connection somehow. So they spent all morning trying to get that set up. Somebody had gone to Walmart to buy one of those things that you activate. And this was a couple years ago, mind you, so wireless technology was slightly more primitive then, but she had bought one of those hotspot internet things to activate, and that couldn't work, and they'd spent all this money, and she was crying, and everybody was upset, and we're like, we just want to get married. I don't think Grandma Judy's going to be okay if we just give her a video afterward. So yeah, all the pictures, her eyes are like all red and puffy, and we're like sitting here like awkwardly on the morning of the wedding, like trying to console his mom because she was upset that we couldn't Skype his dad's mother the wedding. So my poor best friend, Brittany, who was the maid of honor, she had broken up with her boyfriend at the time like a week before. And then so she was going to date or bring this other guy with her that she dated at one point in time. And then they got, maybe it wasn't a week before, maybe it was like a couple weeks before. Because like the week before the wedding, they ended up getting back together. Her boyfriend, who's now her husband. So then she had to tell this other guy, like, I'm uninviting you to the wedding. She had been going through, she has fibromyalgia, so she is on Lyrica. And I think she just started it not too long ago. And like that was a point in her life when she was just like, her pain was like unbearable. So due to Lyrica and other stressful things, within the few months that she had bought her dress, she had gained some weight, so it was kind of tight, and her boobs were hanging out. I didn't really care. Chris, her now husband, didn't really care, but she was like all worried about that. So yeah, then we played Chubby Bunny at the end of the night because we had like a reception at the venue or at the church, like in the fellowship hall. We ate, and then we went to my aunt's house down the road, and we ate some more. And then we played Chubby Bunny with the marshmallows that we were going to roast over the fire that we didn't end up roasting over the campfire. We had kind of like a bonfire type thing. And then we went back to the hotel for our wedding night. And I ended up crying because his grandma Judy gave us a bunch of money. And not a bunch of money, but like, you know, enough that I was like, oh, she didn't have to do that, because she had already been dealing with like medical bills and paying for the nursing home and rehab and everything. So yeah, I, instead of like being like, ooh, our wedding night, we were like, I was sitting on the bed crying. I feel like it really wasn't that bad looking back. I mean, it was a fun weekend and it could have been worse. But at the same time, I'm glad it's over, and if you ever get married or ever feel like you might want to elope, just do it. So there are more things I could have added, but I feel like 20 minutes is enough. And that's probably all you want to watch, and I'm also tired of editing, and I'm hungry. So I'm going to go eat food. Thanks for watching. Good luck with your wedding planning, Rachel. I'm so glad you have Jenna to put fuzzy bunnies on her fingers or whatever so all your nails match. Yay!